Elizabeth, known as Izzy, is an army doctor who has just returned home from war. She gets out of the car when her kids storm out of their house and hug her. Ethan, her husband, holds their daughter Lily in his arms. Izzy goes over to hold her for the first time since giving birth to her, staring at her with longing and passion. What this family doesn't know is that their house is surrounded by an eerie presence, the unfamiliar. Her son, Tommy, brings her inside the living room to show her his radio set. He has been working on it for some time to try to communicate with Izzy when she was in Afghanistan. She is incredibly proud of him, as this is quite impressive for his age. She is asleep when she hears whispers, causing her to wake up. She sees flickering lights in their living room, so she walks over to check who left the lights on. She goes in and turns them off. The sound of a door creaking open gets her attention. It's the door at the end of the hallway. She is puzzled as to who has opened the door. She starts walking towards the room when a sudden sound stops her in her tracks. She happened to have stepped on a talking doll. She gets herself back together after the scare and continues walking toward the door. A faint noise of the radio changing frequencies plays in the background, getting louder and louder with time. She walks in to see the radio working. The doll makes sounds again, and loud thuds of someone running across the hallway are heard. She runs back to see who is there before her baby starts crying. Izzy is shaken from the weird activity she just witnessed. She checks on her baby, who is now in her dad's arms, calm and quiet. She notices the statue sitting on the sofa in the baby's room and inquires about it. Her husband tells her it's for good luck. She holds the baby in her arms and puts her to sleep. Tommy makes a rather scary entrance out of the dark, scaring Izzy. Tommy wanted to see why his sister is crying. The scene is packed with jump scares and audio play. That is key in indicating the impending danger about to occur. It's day 2, and the family is standing by their broken down car. Izzy is inspecting the car while Ethan and the kids wait for her to finish fixing it. Later that evening, the car is packed in the garage, and Izzy is busy fixing it when she notices that her wrench is missing. She goes outside to check for it when she notices Tommy using it to fix his radio. Izzy is curious as to why he is so involved in building his radio, when he tells her that he wants to communicate with his dad during his sleep. Izzy laughs it off as imaginative and wishful thinking, but Tommy is adamant that it is very much possible to communicate with people from other dimensions. This statement is key in the entire plot, hinting at Tommy's belief in supernatural entities and possibly having a connection with the paranormal activities in their house. Izzy is under the car when Tommy leaves to get something for her. As she is busy working on the car, water spills through under her seat, and she asks Tommy to stop playing, as he may be wasting water. All of a sudden, a gush of water enters from the window and floods her garage, weakening the hydraulic supports holding up her car. It comes closer to her face, debris falling on her sides. It's a tense moment, as the weight is close to falling on her, the sound of parts creaking only adding to the fear in her eyes. Tommy comes into the shot, having been stung by a bee. Izzy rushes him in and tries to calm him down as he fights against his allergy, causing him trouble breathing. She calls the healthcare emergency helpline, but Tommy reassures her that everything will be all right. He doesn't need care. He diverts her attention and shows her what interests him lately. He takes her to Ethan's room. It is full of artifacts from Hawaii lying on the table. The walls are filled with pictures all over. Tommy removes the pictures to reveal what is underneath, as he tells his mom about them. They are about different demons and supernatural creatures. His dad used to study them, but gave it up to write children's books. Ethan turns up and Izzy confronts him about this sudden change in interest. He tells her that studying the Hawaiian culture and artifacts was merely an interest. He faked believing Aunt Me's stories, and merely sold them to people to earn for himself. Guilt made him change his pursuits. Izzy reassures him that he didn't steal anything from anyone, and that is all right. Izzy catches Tommy reciting some weird words, as he prays with a book in front of him and a picture of Aunt Me. She asks him what he is up to, and he tells her that he is reciting something Aunt Me taught him to keep him safe, as he thinks he is in danger. Izzy reassures him that he is safe, as she is here to protect him. That night, she jerks awake from whispers yet again. Ethan returns and gets in bed with her, his arm around her. She is worried about Tommy and the weird things he has been up to and tries to discuss it with Ethan. He brushes it off and goes to sleep. The light in the hallway turns on once again. Her baby starts crying, and she wakes up. She glances at her reflection and notices a scary hand over her, that of her husband. She gets up in shock and horror, checking if it is her husband beside her. It is. It is day 3. She starts visiting a therapist to treat her PTSD, which she suspects to have gotten from her deployment in the war. A paranormal activity investigator meets her in the waiting area and tells her that she may not be a patient, as he senses an ominous entity around her. She doesn't give it much heed. She returns home and takes her meds prescribed to curb her PTSD symptoms. A weird sound gets her attention, and she turns around to look at the frame on the wall. It's a family portrait, which shakes off the wall and falls, shattered into pieces. She is shocked by the portrait falling and walks over, when she sees a reflection of someone behind her on the shattered glass. She runs out of her house and over to her garage to get surveillance cameras. She fits them in all the rooms of her house, to examine any paranormal activity as well as keep an eye on Tommy and his weird activity. Her family returns, and they see her in a panicked state during all this. Ethan tells her that Tommy turned the portraits around. Tommy looks sorry and scared. She is checking the surveillance footage when she notices that Tommy displaces the statue in her baby's room and stands near the cart before roaming in circles around the room. On day 4, Izzy wakes up from her slumber in front of a laptop. She makes her way to the kitchen to take her pills for her PTSD. She hears the piano playing from the living room and goes over to see who is playing it. It's Emma. Izzy admires her while standing by the entrance, before sitting beside her and talking to her. Emma is her stepdaughter, and Izzy reminisces about the first time she called her mom when she was playing the piano at a store. She looks over at Emma, but her stern look puts her off. She is glaring at her, eyes full of horror, before she hits her head on the decoration beside her. Her forehead is bleeding out, and Izzy screams. Ethan comes in, but is confused. It was nothing but Izzy's hallucination. Or was it? Izzy is still in shock and is adamant that she saw Emma. She runs up to her room calling out her name, but Emma isn't home. Izzy shows the CCTV footage to Ethan, confident that she did see her, whereas Ethan is convinced it's her trauma. CCTV footage proves Elizabeth wrong. Ethan wants to take her on a vacation so she can take a break, but Izzy claims she is not stressed and that she wants to get to the bottom of everything going on with her. She dials the guy from earlier at her therapist's office, and he already knew it would be her. It's day 5, and the paranormal activity investigator is here. Another man holding camera equipment accompanies him. Ethan is rather displeased by this, and takes Izzy to the corner to talk about the situation. He thinks the investigator is a scam and is simply hitting on her, but he is gay. He simply isn't convinced that this is the way to go about things. But Izzy is convinced that the investigator will help. Ethan scoffs in ridicule and takes the kids away. Izzy is seated on the sofa across from the investigator. They are being recorded on a camera that detects supernatural beings. He begins the ritual, palms on the table as he breathes strongly. All of a sudden, he starts panting and screaming that something is wrong. He almost becomes possessed by the being. He starts chanting words in the same language Tommy was reciting earlier. The glass vase shatters, and he vomits before falling unconscious. She turns around to look at him again, when the demon standing beside him stares deeply at her. The man behind the camera screams, and the demon is gone. The investigator regains consciousness and claims that there is a presence in her house. Izzy phones Ethan and is about to tell him about her discovery when the CCTV footage shows her what the investigator and his team did. They were indeed scammers who planted the glass vase breaker and the fake demon. She apologizes to Ethan as he was right. He pulls him into her garage. He didn't get away too far, just around the corner shop, as he was not ready to give up on her. They leave for their trip to Hawaii on the 6th day of her return from war. Their vacation home has a garden where Tommy and Emma are sunbathing. Izzy is on the swing, and Tommy helps her swing even higher. Their relationship is fun and close. Emma is usually distant from her stepmom. Izzy is in the bathroom when the weird occurrences start again. She hears a squeaking sound from the mirror behind her. Someone drew a man on the mirror through the mist. Another one occurs on the mirror in front of her. She then sees a hand draw one on her window through the shower curtain, but when she checks who it is, there is no one behind it. She runs out of the bathroom and is about to take her pills for her crippling PTSD when the door of her room shuts. She stands firm, full of fear and anxiety. Everything around her gets knocked over one by one. The dice fall over, the lamp bulb shatters, the closet is displaced, and the clothes start shaking. Izzy is terrified and screams for help when Tommy enters her room. She screams at him and asks him to tell her what is going on. She tries to shake the answers out of him, but ends up scaring Tommy, who starts crying after being interrogated about his interests. She hugs him and calms him down. She storms out of the house, ready to visit Aunt Mee. Ethan tells her that she is closed right now, and everything that is happening is just her PTSD because she is a female. Izzy is upset, as being a woman doesn't mean that she is weak. Ethan embraces her and tells her that he will help her. It is D-Day, the 7th day since her return. Izzy joins Ethan, who is trying out some magic spells from one of his books, without the needed herbs, of course, so that the magic doesn't actually occur. They read the spell together, word to word. They wait for something to happen, and then laugh at themselves. Tommy bangs on their window from outside all of a sudden, startling both of them. Elizabeth goes outside to see what's wrong. He takes her through the forest, not afraid of bees this time. They stop at a lake. Tommy wants to dive in, because Ethan wants him to get rid of his phobia of water. Izzy swims in to check if the water is clear. She is about to ask Tommy to join her when she is pulled down into the water by an invisible force. She struggles her way up, but is pulled down ever deeper this time. She sees 3 bodies chained to a rock. She panics at the sight and swims up to the surface, the rush of adrenaline helping her break free. She goes back and asks Ethan to leave the house and call the police. She is packing up when Ethan tells her that he can't find Emma. They start looking for her all around the house, when they hear a telephone ringing from the basement. Izzy goes down to check, after asking Ethan to telephone the police once more. The place is full of antiques and scriptures. She holds up a torch to guide her through the dark when she receives a call. A helpless Emma is on the other side of the phone, desperately asking Izzy to help her. She asks her to follow her instructions, so she can stay safe. It seems that she has been taken hostage. Emma asks her mom to go inside a room in the basement and find a pot of boiling water. She spots one. Emma asks her to put her hand inside it. Izzy is shocked and asks Emma about where she is. A masked woman shows up behind her as she speaks on the phone, giving viewers a jump scare. Turns out, it is Emma who was fooling her mom to see if she would step in danger just to save her daughter. She has always been insecure about her mother's affection towards her, not being her biological daughter. Izzy has had enough of her games and drags her upstairs. Surprisingly, Ethan is calm, setting up the breakfast table. Shouldn't he have been worried about Emma? Hasn't he called the police? Izzy asks him if he has, and he says he did, pausing before answering that question. His actions are very suspicious. She asks Ethan to pack up as they are leaving, and gets Tommy too. She goes into his room and finds him busy with the radio again. He is trying to establish contact with his dad, but Izzy says she just saw him downstairs when she hears his voice through the radio. She recognizes his voice and stops, as Ethan says that the person downstairs is not him. The paranormal activity. Everything has been happening because it's a fake Ethan. The real Ethan has been trying to communicate with Tommy, but no one would believe him. Izzy wouldn't, not after the portrait incident. She holds Tommy and tells him that she does believe him. Emma is not real either. Ethan instructs both of them to leave as quietly as possible, but they are too late. Tommy hides in the tunnel from his bedroom, while Izzy stands firm in her place as the fake Ethan walks into their room. Lily in his arms, a hostage. He holds a knife to her neck, rambling about how it was annoying for him to imitate her husband's accent. Emma walks in and gets her mom to go down to the basement with her, this time threatening her to tie herself up to the table near the boiling water. She does as instructed, afraid something might happen to Lily if she doesn't comply. She ties herself to the table, while the fake Emma and Ethan perform a ritual of duplicating Izzy's body. There, she appears behind the curtains before they pour the boiling water on Izzy's body. Tommy is hiding in the tunnel, hearing her screams of pain and agony. Izzy gets sucked into the other world. She wakes up in the middle of a forest. It's dark, and the color grading of the entire scene is black and white, setting the tone for the rest of it. She sees a girl facing away from her, thinking it is Emma. She calls out to her, but she turns around and the person is faceless. A growling sound gets her attention, before the demon grabs her by her hair and drags her through the forest, as she fights out of its grip. He holds her up by the throat before letting her drop to the ground, unconscious. The scene is bizarre and scary. She wakes up and sees light shining through the trees. She follows the rays and ends up at her house. She can hear Lily's cries from one of the rooms. The mirrors act like windows to the other world, one of which shows her family sitting together and playing in the other dimension, indicated by the saturated color grade through the mirror. She goes to Lily's room, and the statue from earlier comes alive. What follows is a chase. Izzy hides underneath a table, while the demon searches for her around the house. It's a scary pursuit, as Izzy wants to save Lily. Being an army soldier, she is brave and courageous as she chases the demon into Lily's room and lures him out before shutting the door behind her. She sees another window to the other world, Tommy sitting beside his radio. She communicates with him, asking him to go through the tunnel down to the basement. She wants to transfer souls, and has Tommy do the deed for her. She has her son pour the boiling liquid on his body, from his toes all the way up to his head. He obeys, screaming in agony and pain as his mom watches him. He leaves no part spare, as his mother chants the magic spell from the other world. The screams stop, indicating the ritual is complete, and Tommy is knocked unconscious. Elizabeth has transferred into Tommy's body. She gets up and tells Tommy to take care of himself, and that she loves him before cleaning herself of the liquid. The fake Ethan comes down the basement staircase and lets loose a whole closet of bees, aware that Tommy's body has a severe allergic response to bees. Izzy wraps her body with plastic curtains immediately, and quickly goes over to find a mask to cover her face. She fights her way through the bees and furniture heavily stacked in their basement, and goes over to the window nearby. She climbs over and struggles her way out through it and comes outside, finally away from the bees. Her body is having an allergic response, but she can't get inside the house because the fake Ethan and Emma are still there. They smell something burning from down in the basement and go downstairs, while Tommy makes his way in and pulls furniture over to the door to keep it locked so they stay inside. All of a sudden, Emma shows up and starts throwing kitchen utensils and anything she can find at Tommy as he desperately tries to shield himself behind a chair. Emma is about to move the furniture blocking the door to the basement when Tommy grabs her into a chokehold and knocks her unconscious. Izzy takes the body over to Aunt Mies, asking her for help. She is aware of the incident that has occurred at their home and knows it's Izzy and Tommy's body. She refuses to help Tommy bring back her family, but Izzy plays smartly and convinces her to do so by using an example from a child she couldn't help. She wants to be able to make amends in whatever way possible. She connects with Aunt Mies on a personal level by bringing up the loss of a loved one, which makes her want to help Izzy. They leave for the very place where the transference occurred. Emma is handcuffed and lies on a table, a scene from the very beginning replaying. Aunt Mies chants a spell above her head when she senses an unfamiliar presence. She pauses when Izzy says she needs to check on the ones in the basement. She resumes while Izzy makes her way down to the basement. Ethan appears from behind and hits his head with a wooden stick. Tommy falls on the floor and is met by the fake Izzy, who tells him that Ethan is his real father, unaware that Tommy is the real Izzy. Tommy calls Aunt Mies to bring the bodies back to life. Screams are heard around the house. Izzy is back inside her body, and so is Tommy. They hug each other, happy that they are safe. Emma is heard crying from upstairs. They leave to see her, while Aunt Mies tries to get Ethan back. Emma lies in Izzy's lap, sound asleep when Ethan enters, and they both hug each other. They haven't seen each other since she left for war. Tommy joins them too. Emma is seen getting up from her sleep, quietly trying to make her way out, when Aunt Mee stops her as she needs to perform her cleansing. Emma bites her before running up the stairs, her eyes completely white. Lily starts crying from upstairs, and Izzy goes over to get her. Emma is possessed by a demon which cannot be removed by transference. The demon never leaves the person it possesses unless they are murdered. She performs an exorcism on Emma as Izzy pins her down on the floor. Emma appears to be fighting the demon as it phases onto the surface and back, causing her pain. The demon is too strong, and Aunt Mee instructs Izzy to bring her to the lake in order to fully remove it. They perform the ritual as Izzy holds Emma's body down in the water. She is now safe. However, the demon is still after her. He pulls her body back into the lake. Aunt Mee realizes that there is no other way for this fight to end, and decides to sacrifice herself in place of Emma. She goes in, becoming possessed by the demon, while Emma is brought to the shore. Izzy is trying to resuscitate her back to life, as Ethan sits beside her in anxiety and tension about his daughter. Tommy stands over her with Lily in his arms, scared and worried for his sister. The moment plays in slow motion, emotional and tearful as the family is desperately trying to bring Emma back to life. Izzy forgets the spell and prays in her language to God to bring her back, as she is sorry that she couldn't stay back to save her. Emma wakes up. Izzy asks her a question to make sure it is her, before bursting into laughter together and hugging it out. They have dinner together like they always wanted to, wondering if they should open their restaurant. The pie tastes awful, but Tommy lies that it tastes delicious. The family is safe and happy. They all enjoy their appetite, as Lily stares at them before her eyes turn white.